Kia ora koutou, katoa. Welcome to the Takanini Electorate Candidate Discussion Night. This is an opportunity to get to know our Takanini region candidates for our local elections. It's really a chance to find out who you guys are as people, what you guys want to do for the Takanini region, and just kind of have that first corridor between the MANUKA Youth Council and you guys yourself. Tonight will be hosted by myself. My name is Ryland Flavel. I'm the Deputy Chairperson of the MANUKA Youth Council, and I'm joined here by my co-facilitator.
I'm Paris MANUKA, and I am a co-events lead for the MANUKA Youth Council.
Beautiful. So we'll get straight into this, yeah? And we'll just start off with George from Vision Party. We'll just get you to introduce yourself, introduce your Vision Party, and just kind of get to know you as a person real quick, yeah?
Okay then. Well, kia ora everybody. George NGATAI is my name, and obviously I've lived in the Takanini Electorate now, formerly Flatbush Electorate for, just over a year. I'm originally from Whakatane, been living in Auckland here for more than 20 years, the same amount of time that I've been married to my wife. We actually work in the medical field. We've done so for the last 20 years. Social and health services is what we actually specialise in. I suppose my reasons in terms of standing for Vision New Zealand is because I certainly love the vision and the passion and the values that it actually comes with. We're very much faith-based, and certainly those that come out in the policies that we've developed and are continually developing over this period of time. I'm standing for Takanini because I believe that when you actually live in the electorate, it's good to actually represent the people of Takanini, and I believe that myself and obviously the rest of the candidates are going to actually be doing their best to put their hand up and represent its community.
Beautiful. That's a pristine answer there. You've prepared yourself, we can tell. We'll jump over to Niru now from our Labour Party, and same thing goes for you, bro. Just a quick introduction from yourself.
Cool. Kia ora, talofa. I'm Dr. Niru Sa. I'm Samoan. Parents migrated here early 80s. I was born here. We went to Mangere. I grew up in Mangere for 30 years and then moved around the place. Currently a South Auckland doctor for the last 12 years, a GP for almost 10 years now. Currently practice in Mangere and Manurewa. And so I wanted to put my hand up for the Labour Party because I see the party's visions and values align with mine in terms of lifting those who are the poor, the vulnerable, the marginalised, and policies that reflect those values there. And also want to stand for Takanini because not only with the work I do within the electorate itself, but also want to work with the community and advocate on the issues that matter to them. And also sit on the local board from Mangere Otahu. So I guess gleaning the skills from local government and putting them together and working together with central government to see where I can advocate on issues. Thank you. Kia ora.
Beautiful, bro. Beautiful. You guys are real prepared, eh? I can see that. And we'll jump over to Mike here from ACT Party for our last introduction.
Yeah, g'day guys, my name's Mike McCormick. I've lived where I am now in the Flatbush area for the last 15 years, which has now just become the new part of the new Takanini Electorate. I was born in Howick, Howick Obstetric Hospital, and I've basically migrated from Howick down this way over those last number of years. I'm standing for the ACT Party to raise the party vote. The ACT Party is about free speech, private property rights, the rule of law, proper parliamentary process, and that's what got me into politics. Was basically in the last couple of years we've seen assaults on all of those, and I just wasn't prepared to stand for it anymore. And I know there's a lot of people in the Takanini electorate that actually feel the same way, and I think there needs to be a real change of government. My wife and children believe the same thing as well. My wife I've been married to for 20-something years, 25 years or so. 3 children, 21, 19, and my youngest daughter is at Ormiston Senior College. And so they're all, they all feel the same way. They're quite upset and exercised about the whole state of play in New Zealand currently. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, if I was elected as the representative for Takanini, to actually go to Wellington to actually, to advocate on behalf of the issues that really matter. But I think that the best way to do that is to actually approach from attacking the cause of problems, not getting too tied up in the symptoms of things. And this is where I think the best representation for a local electorate is actually in Wellington, to address the cause of problems rather than worrying too much about the symptoms. I mean, you've got to address the symptoms as well, obviously, but I think you really need to make positive change. To change your future, you've actually got to address the root causes of problems and start from that basis.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, but I'm sure we'll just jump straight into our questions now. We have 10 for you guys tonight, and Paris will lead us with the first one there.
Okay, so the first question is, why did you decide to run in the 2020 Takanini Electorate?
Well, look, I was going to actually stand in the Flatbush electorate if it was still going to be called the Flatbush, and it just happened that when they did the change of the reboundary of this electorate, we were sort of smack bang in the middle. I wanted to stand. I wanted to actually represent the people that I live alongside with, and just talking to the people along our street and at our local shops. They were talking really around the challenges that they were going through, and I wanted to be able to sort of take those views into Wellington or down to Wellington and advocate on their behalf. I mean, not only did I want to actually represent down in Wellington, but I also wanted to participate in supporting the local businesses, the local social service groups, and also the mums and dads of Takanini, and just help work through many challenges that I have actually been having to address through our social and health service experience. I think since COVID, that's taken a huge turn, because we've identified a lot more problems and challenges with a lot of our neighbours and residents within Takanini, and I think that even encouraged me more to want to stand and want to actually represent a community that is quite, if you were to look at, like Otara and Cleandon and areas, we're quite well off. But when you actually got that support in amongst our communities, there are still challenges that are identified, and here's the fact that I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. I've door knocked on many doors and delivered pamphlets, but that's why I wanted to actually stand, was to represent our community.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll jump over to Nuru here for our second statement.
Cool. The reason why I wanted to stand, so as a medical doctor in South Auckland, I've always had itchy feet to always try to do things outside of the clinic walls, because I've always found that health and well-being is not only within the clinic itself, it's always outside of social issues. So I always wanted to advocate on the community side of things. So I've always done stuff outside. And then the last few years just got more serious in terms of putting my hand up for local government. It was only last year that I managed successfully to get on the local board. So I've learned quite a lot in terms of local governance and how this whole Auckland Council machinery works in terms of advocating for the community. And then when the opportunity came for Takanini and the party, I found that, like what George said, this is a COVID environment that we're in now. So I just felt it was the right time to step into putting myself out there to run for Takanini. Yes, I do a lot of home visits, I do a lot of work within the electorate itself. So it was, I guess, that natural progression to, in terms of growth for myself, but also try to see where I can advocate on a broader sense for health and well-being. So, local government, you can only go so far in terms of issues, and so having this broader sense, it's much better in terms of I guess having that central government lens, and that's why I put my hand forward. So just really keen to do the mahi really and get stuck in there. Kia ora.
Lovely, bro. Lovely, bro. And we'll just go over to Mike here for our last one, eh?
Yeah, okay, guys. Well, I guess I first got, my political brain first got switched on for, I mean, I've always had an interest in politics and I don't mind discussing it at barbecues and stuff, but about 2 years ago, there was an incident in Auckland, if we remember, where Phil Goff took it upon himself to become the arbiter of free speech by banning a couple of Canadian speakers from an event that they were trying to hold. And I looked at that and thought, well, I knew vaguely who these people were through my son. He's a history and politics major. He's just completed that degree. And I knew they were like, they had some controversial views, but I don't think they were that far out. But Phil Goff banned them, right? And I thought, hang on a second, that's not the Kiwi way. New Zealand's about free speech. We give everyone a fair go. The Kiwi attitude, mate, is we take people as we find them, and we give everyone a fair crack. And I thought, that's not right, So I sort of started, interacting with the Free Speech Coalition there. And then a few months later, we had an incident down in Christchurch where obviously, our nation's darkest day. And I'm a licensed firearms owner. I've represented New Zealand in target shooting on a number of occasions, very proudly. And when I saw the reaction of our parliament to that incident, where they completely ignored proper parliamentary process and the rule of law, and they set about, dividing our nation and saying, here's a group over here, we're going to hold them responsible for something they haven't done. I just, it was a level of just shock and stunned outrage, or led to shocked and stunned first, because I'm thinking, this is not New Zealand. And then it became outrage, and then it became, I need to do something. This is just not right. So, I've lived here in this area, and I thought, well, who's going to actually, which party best suits my views? And it's quite simply the ACT Party. And then, of course, when, David Seymour was the only person in Parliament to actually stand up on the day it counted the most, and he stood up for free speech and quite frankly, the Kiwi way of life. And that's what got me into politics and standing for the ACT Party.
So in that regard, that was lovely first answers, bro. You guys are all real prepared for this. So we'll jump over to our second question here, and that's just, what is the most memorable part of your campaign so far? Obviously, it's been quite tough with COVID and whatnot, but really, what stuck out for you guys in your campaigns? And we'll start with George again here.
Well, I suppose for me, it has been COVID. And because we've worked on the front line since April, my team and I have been sort of testing in MANUKA. And since April of this year, we've tested 48,000 people through our testing station across MANUKA and Auckland. And I think that that's probably been quite memorable, because like COVID hasn't actually discriminated anyone. It's discriminated, well, you don't have to be Māori or Pacific or Pākehā to actually get COVID, you just get it. And I think what this actually has done is it's brought everybody down to the same level. And I think you can't really move past the COVID matter without talking about what's been memorable for you. And I remember actually seeing one lady that came through when we were in our first lockdown, and she came with, she had been out of work for 3 weeks, and at our testing station we offered food, and she was very, very educated. She had a good job, and we managed to actually have a discussion with her during her coming through. One of the things that she said she was really struggling with was that she didn't have food, and we provided that food through Auckland Council and through what supports this government had given to people that were affected by COVID. And I think that really brought everyone to tears, because she had nowhere to go, and because she came through our service, she was able to actually get something that she really did need. That's probably the most memorable for me. I mean, there's been lots of stories of people actually in similar conditions and situations, but it's affected everybody. And when you're actually at your lowest, and in April we were at our lowest, you really do see people coming together and people pulling out everything that they can to give and support people through challenging times. New Zealand is that, Takanini is that, and I suppose that's probably been the most memorable for me.
Beautiful, bro. That's heartwarming, really. We'll jump over to Nedu here for our second answer.
Yep, so most memorable, I guess, the COVID-19 environment, but I guess on the campaign trail, just meeting a lot of different ethnic groups, communities, going to the different churches and the temples. So I really enjoyed going into the Sikh temples as well, because as you would know, the Takanini has a high proportion of our Asian ethnic groups. And going to the Sikh temples, I haven't, I've never gone into a Sikh temple before. I'm a Christian, so I never had a chance to. But going on this campaign trail, it's really opened doors into people's lives and their faiths, the different faiths. So I've learned quite a lot from different faiths. And then you hear about the issues that they're most concerned about. So whether it be voting issues, immigration issues, but just being there with them and also discussing the COVID-19 environment. Yes, it's been tough. 2020 has been one of those years. It's been really difficult for everyone. So I guess that's my most memorable, is meeting with the people, hearing their issues, but also just comforting them during this time. And during this, it's been quite a hard time for everyone. So yeah, that's my take. Thank you.
Hard out. That's great to hear, bro. That's great to hear. And we'll jump over to Mike for our last one, eh?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the most memorable is the diversity of people, along with, religions and ethnicities, but also of viewpoints. That there's a whole lot of people out there who are prepared to stand up and have their say, even if they just come up to you after a meeting or as part of it. But I was actually down in a Pocono candidates meeting Tuakau, the other night. And there was actually 15 candidates standing in the Port Waikato electorate. And I thought, man, that's awesome. And you look at the range of people there, and, some were, dressed rather uniquely, perhaps like looking a bit like a leprechaun with a top hat and a green jacket and stuff. But a really passionate person. But, the actual candidate, I won't say from which party, who had actually held the seat for a while, he was a bit disparaging when he said, what can one person do in Parliament? And I thought, well, look, mate, these people have actually got the passion to stand up. They believe in what they believe in, and they're prepared to try and communicate their message, and they want to represent the people of their area. And I think, what one person can do in Parliament, I mean, we're a living embodiment of that, the ACT Party. We've got one MP, and, if you look at what he's done, he's been the effective opposition in this last Parliament. The number of 1 to 119 votes in our Parliament on everything from zero carbon through to, to the firearms legislation, he's actually stood up on matters of principle and said, this is not going to work, it's bad public policy, we shouldn't do it. I mean, even the child poverty reduction bill sounded nice, but it wasn't going to achieve anything that it was supposed to do, so he voted against it. So, that's the memorable thing for me, those 15 candidates down there, a broad range of Kiwis, and they've all got a heart, they've all got a passion, and, I guess that's what I'm really enjoying about politics. And that's, that really struck me.
Sweet, bro. Thank you so much. Jump back over to Paris here for our third question, if I can speak English.
Okay, so our next question for you is, how do you plan to represent the Takanini region?
Well, for me, it's obviously, because we don't actually have a member of parliament as such, it would be finding the best place to set up office. And making that accessible for the people of Takanini is going to be quite key. So looking at where to position yourself within the electorate is going to be something that we're going to have to do quite quickly. I suppose representation, it's really about taking the views and meeting with the community on a regular basis. I mean, Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays is going to actually be an opportunity for us to be in the electorate and working alongside our community and our electorate members, and then actually going down to Wellington Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday to take all of what challenges and issues there are and trying to do a good job. And just actually talking, with what Mike said, I was at that meeting the other night when that member of parliament actually says, what does one vote actually do? Well, it does a lot, because what you can do is take the voice of your community and speak on their behalf. And when you're actually with a big political party like either the left or the right, you're going to have to view the points or the issues and talk about the issues in accordance to what the party says. And I think from the smaller parties, they are really in touch with the community, because we're actually in there all the time. And it's not saying that the left and the right parties aren't, but we've got more opportunity to take the voice of the community down to Wellington. And I suppose that's probably what I plan on doing, is having more engagement with our people in Takanini and actually taking all of what they have saying and the challenges that they have to actually voice that and represent their views in Parliament on Monday through to Wednesday, and then actually go back to the community on Thursday through to Sunday and report back.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we'll jump over to Neto here again.
So I guess number one is obviously to find the right candidate. So I believe that's me, where I'm really passionate about representing the community, and Takanini is a diverse community, right from the northern end down to the southern end. We've got different suburbs all in case. There's a lot of suburbs in Takanini itself, so a lot of different issues there. And also on the campaign trail, I've heard different voices and things that have come across. So definitely accessibility, making sure that your people have access to you, and then making sure that you represent it well. I've been in the Labour Party, like George said, we're on the left side, we're quite a big party, but again, it's just having that strong advocacy within your own party to make sure your voice is being heard, your people are being heard. And I think that's comes down to relationships as well, building that good relationships, not only with your community, but making sure within the party itself that you are strong, you do have a passionate voice, and that you will always keep pushing the issues that you represent for your community. So, I don't think that I come into a Labour Party where, yes, we've got a lot of people, but I also believe that I can be that strong voice for the Takanini people. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. And we'll jump over to Mike here for the last one again.
Yeah, okay. Hey, I think the first point I'd make would be about representing Takanini is that you actually get two votes, right? You get an electorate vote and a party vote. And both of those, in a way, mean different things. So you can actually party vote for one party, like the ACT Party, and then choose the candidate separately, or vice versa. And I think the best, like I said at the start, about treating the root cause, about having a strong voice in Parliament, that a party vote for ACT in Takanini actually translates, particularly in this election, if you look at the polls, translates into a strong voice and a strong advocacy at central government level to treat the root causes of a whole lot of symptoms that are manifesting in Takanini. Lack of public transport, lack of infrastructure build that should have been done years ago, the health issues and concerns in some parts of the electorate as well, that Nero's alluded to. So the advocacy for the electorate is not just your electorate candidate vote, it's also your party vote. And this is the thing that I think, sharp young operators, kids growing up in this world now, especially post-COVID, with all the manifest problems that are going to be dumped on their generation, they need to get involved, and it's never been more important for young people to really understand the importance of their vote and the importance of participating in their democracy. And their party vote is a key part of that, to actually look at the principles of the parties that you vote for, as well as your local candidate. So, I'm really pushing for a party vote message here in Takanini for the ACT Party to get strong representation down in Wellington, where so much of the symptomatic issues we have up here actually stem from with poor public policy down in Wellington, and we want to get better public policy down there. So your party vote is just as crucial, or even more crucial, I would say. And that's how I want to represent Takanini. I want to push that party vote message, that's really critical. And a party vote for ACT is a vote for a strong party that believes in private property rights, freedom, and proper parliamentary process.
So we'll just jump here to our fourth question. It's just really, what's an event you want to see in Takanini? With COVID, obviously, live and public events haven't been that easy to hold. But coming into 2021, what is an event you want to see in Takanini specifically?
Well, I was disappointed that we actually didn't see, that concert that was cancelled, Elton John. that would actually be a good one to have in Takanini, and actually have it in the MANUKA gardens there. But seriously, I think there needs to be opportunity for us to look at developing things that both young people and the electorate of Takanini would want to see. I mean, it's really hard. What would I want to actually see happen? I suppose it would be basketball. I mean, I would want to actually see a major game of basketball actually played, if not within our electorate, close by. And so the event centre just down the road here would actually be ideal for us to allow people within Takanini to come through to see that. And I think at the moment it's at Bruce Mason, is it? Yeah, Bruce Mason, which is actually quite a long way away for our people to go to. We want it to come closer to our South Auckland areas.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I think that's key. A lot of youth, especially, very sporty. So it's good to see an event like that in Takanini. Would be good to see. Well,
My son says all the time.
Exactly, bro. What about Neru here? What do you want to see in Takanini an event?
Well, I think the sports velodrome falls into our electorate, and I saw that Polyfest wasn't held, yes, because of the lockdown and that. But because of the culture and the different cultures we see, yes, Maori Pacific, but seeing that we have a high Asian ethnic community as well, seeing more of their showcasing their culture as well. I'm really sporty as well, so if I can see a sevens competition done in the same area, or in our electorate as well, that would be awesome as well. So yeah, so sevens rugby and more of the Asian ethnic groups and the Polyfest type culture showcasing. Cool.
For sure, I think culture again is very prevalent in the Takanini region, so it'd be great to see something like that. And we'll just jump over to Mike here. What kind of event do you want to see in Takanini, bro?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same little sort of wavelength as Neru there, eh? Like a good sporting facility, the Polyfest, a big venue for that, but maybe even get the Warriors down here, an All Blacks game. I mean, if you look at our area here, Takanini, there's still a lot of space earmarked for development, and if we built the right infrastructure through there, that was, proper cost benefit analysis on it, of course. You think about the location, we could have a, train station out to the airport from here instead of wasting this money with trams down Dominion Road, sort of nonsense. Let's build trains across, straight out from Manukau, which is on the edge of Takanini electorate, right? But that's the opportunity I think we have here in this area to actually get ahead of the ball and actually advocate for good, decent infrastructure build in an area we know is going to grow. It's one part of the Auckland, one of the two parts of Auckland that you can grow. You either grow it south or north, right? And it's a lot more fun down north here. As I always tease my sister, she lives on the North Shore. We keep it real down here. And I think a great sports stadium. Let's get the All Blacks test down here, and but do it when you've built proper infrastructure.
For sure, getting an All Black game down here, bro.
Exactly.
Meaning me don't have to travel to Eden Park. Hell is yes.
Well, how about we transplant Eden Park, dig up the turf from Eden Park, where Helen Clark hates it being played anyway, and we could install a new Eden Park down in Takanini. There you go. There's the plan. That's official McCormick policy.
It's an idea for sure. We'll jump over to our fifth question here from Paris.
Sweet. Your next question is, what is something you want to target if elected as MP?
So one of the things on the campaign journey, a lot of people have been talking about the whole infrastructure issues. The annual growth for Takanini is 5% compared to the New Zealand average of 2.1. So it's a really fast populating electorate. So we really need a plan ahead and try to fix and do some good town planning within our area. So a lot of the housing stock that would need to increase, but making sure that that's all planned around our good roads. A lot of roading issues have come up as well. Mill Road, Great South Road, congestion, so those are huge issues that we need to tackle. So working alongside our local government reps and making sure that there's enough in the budget and advocating on making sure that we get enough housing stock, our roads are properly done, and also our education facilities and all that to help to support that whole annual growth that we're seeing as well. So just looking ahead, but also making sure that the issues right now that we can advocate on is met as best as we can.
Beautiful, bro, beautiful. We'll jump over to Mike here for the second answer.
Yeah, well, I think the one thing I'd want to target is actually this massive mountain of debt that this government seems, determined to actually foist on our future generations. Because the thing is, it's not just a number, it's actually robbing you of future opportunities. If you take on a huge amount of debt and then you've got to pay interest on it, in a little while, you actually end up having to spend a whole lot of money on interest and paying that money back. And that denies you the opportunity to actually build a better nation, a better country with better infrastructure. Which leads into the other point I'd want to go, would be like the infrastructure commission that we want to set up as a party. It's basically an agency that basically you depoliticize those decisions on building infrastructure, and you do it on a cost-benefit analysis for the overall good of the nation. Because these infrastructure projects, right, it's not just about the people voting today, it's about, my children, your future children, for you young brothers that don't have them yet. But, we need to think as a nation, and it's not about, us, not that I'm one of them, but, people, you hear this comment about, okay, boomer, blaming the boomers for this, that, and the other thing. The fact of the matter is those boomers are grandparents, your parents, we're all related, we're all in this waka together, right? So we need to depoliticize infrastructure build and actually get proper, sensible value for money return on what we do. And, and we've got to be smarter about how we do it. So, those are the two couple of things, right? We cannot enslave our children and grandchildren with mountains of debt just to be popular today.
Beautiful, bro. And now we'll just go to George for our last answer, eh?
Well, there's two things that I want to actually focus on if I was to get elected. And the first one was actually fixing our roads. I mean, in Takanini itself, there are a lot of congestion happening. And Nedu actually mentioned a couple of those roads, which is Readout Road, and that's coming onto the motorway. Thank goodness they've actually changed the lane composition on Readout Road coming onto the motorway, but that's taken so long, and the frustration that people actually have spoken to me about with regards to that has been amazing. They've been frustrated. It hasn't been amazing. They've just been frustrated. The other thing is, this morning I was traveling on Hill Road, and I sat for 45 minutes to an hour just getting from one roundabout just to the on-ramp, and that was actually because the turning right onto the motorway was just so congested that that's not a problem that's been overnight. It's actually been a problem that's been there for years. So if we can invest into the infrastructure, into better roading, not only within Takanini, but in many places across Auckland, that will free up the numbers of, or the time it takes you to get from point A to point B. I mean, I was here in MANUKA, and the person that lives in Kumeu actually flew in on a helicopter just to sort of come to our testing station, because he said it was going to be quicker to do that than to actually drive. Now, not all people in Takanini can actually fly in on a helicopter to do things. However, if we fixed our roads to do that, then that would be great. The other thing is employment. We're having 700 to 1,000 people a day unemployed. And I think that that's going to cause more pressure on, one, our country's debt. And, I mean, sorry, Nedu, but this government is paying people to be unemployed and stay on the unemployment benefit with the $4.95 unemployment benefit, whereby I think when I get elected, that'll be something that I'd focus on, rather than pay people to be at home, pay them a bit more to be back at work. And even though that would actually cost us something like, for 30,
just wrapping up here,
30,000 people will cost a couple of $100 billion, but that will, 100 million, sorry, that will actually come back in taxes, and over a 3 to 5 year, we'll get that repaid over that appointed period of time.
I'm sure we could all sit here and argue about the Takanini on-ramp for the motorway, but we'll move on to our next question for sure. And that's just, how do you guys plan on engaging with our youth in Takanini? Because obviously it's a big part of the demographic and the people involved in your community. So how do you plan on really engaging with them and getting to know them? We'll start with Nedu here.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting with the whole population stats. A third of Takanini Electorate is under 24 years old, so that's pretty young, and also 34 years old and under. That's just over half, about 55%. So a really young population within the electorate. I guess in terms of our youth, engaging with you guys as one of the youth councils. But yeah, it's in terms of engaging with the different youth groups that are already established. But there's also the church organizations, the different temples that have their youth wing as well. So it's not only, I know you guys do work with the local board and all that, but it's also making sure that we get, a broad spectrum of youth voices. So I hold a youth portfolio for Māngere Otahu on the local board. So it was really important that we make sure that the youth voice is heard and that there is a youth panel, such as the Youth Council, MANUKA Youth Council, and that there's a youth space. So those were two important things within that sort of space. But I know that's how it's really important to make sure we're engaging. I know social media is one way to engage with our youth, but also just making sure that we tie in with the established youth groups within the area itself and make sure that those voices are heard and advocated upon the youth issues. So that's where I would start. Thank you.
For sure, that's great. That's great. We'll jump over to Mike here.
Yeah, well, I think providing the right environment just leads to natural engagement. I mean, humans are social animals. And if you, for example, have an education system that actually helps to inspire children into the ways of critical thinking and having confidence in a direction and a vision for their life going forward, that engagement process is natural. So I think, sorting out the education system is where that all comes from, right? So like we have the policy for charter schools, which allows like your local community to decide more how they school and educate their children. So if you actually have, you get to decide, and once you've got an environment like that, you find children naturally engage, they become very confident, they have a sense of inclusion in the world, and engagement happens naturally. I mean, I don't look at different groups and say, well, they're old, they're young, they're brown, they're white, whatever. It's a people are people, Kiwis are Kiwis, and that's how you engage with people. If you have that attitude and that in your heart, that's how I find it quite easy to engage with any group. So I don't think I need to do anything special for any group to engage. But I think the one challenge I think we do have, or one of the challenges we have in this country, is the education system. We need to depoliticize that and actually talk about focusing on the education of our children and the ways of critical thinking and confidence and inspiring them to go out and tackle the world head on. And that's how you get engagement with the youth. It should happen organically and naturally if you've got the fundamentals right.
Well, I suppose from my perspective, I tend to actually look at having a different approach than Mike. So I think that there are so many diverse, not only young people in our community, but also ethnic groups. And you do have to actually articulate your message in their particular way. So you do have to sort of deliver a message that's going to be different for each group that you speak to, because unless you engage with young people and unless you actually get what messages are of interest to them across, then they're not going to want to participate at all. I suppose for the normal ways of communicating with young people is using social media. I suppose I'm probably, out of the users within Takanini, I'm probably the most used in terms of social media from all of the candidates that have stood. We check that every day, and the team that supports me says, oh, George, you're actually either number one or you're number two in terms of social media. But the engagement is really important to the field that you're wanting to actually communicate with. And social media is probably key for young people. I also actually talk a lot with our kids. So I've got a 17, 16, 14, 10 and 11-year-old. And whatever I actually want to present to young people, I always pass it by them, because they either say, well, yes, Dad, that's going to work, or no, Dad, that's not going to work. The other thing that's important, I think, is that people like yourselves, Rylan, and the Manurewa Youth Council, I think the local MP, whether you're in Takanini or Manurewa, has got to actually engage with you guys so that your views are actually going to be represented down in Wellington. So there's many ways we can actually engage, and I think there's many levels that we can communicate to and from and with, but it's going to just be as things come up, that's how we're going to engage with young people.
Beautiful. That's really good to hear from all of you. You guys all seem to have a good plan of attack for how you're going to engage with youth. And just coming from the MANUKA Youth Council, I'm sure that we're glad to hear you guys are keen to get involved with our youth. I'll pass it over to Paris here for the next question.
Okay, your 7th question is, if elected, how do you plan on dealing with the uncertainty of COVID-19 in your electorate area?
Cool. Thank you, Paris. I guess being a medical doctor in this current pandemic, I think that was part of the reason why I stood, is to just to bring my sort of skills and my medical knowledge to help within the Takanini Electorate itself. I've sat on one of the COVID-19 advisory groups for the Ministry of Health, and making sure that the voices of those, for all, but also including our Māori and Pacific who are vulnerable, and making sure that there is an equity lens at the forefront of health policy and the practical stuff that will happen on the ground to make sure people are not affected the most, because they usually are in terms of all their health stats. So, but I guess bringing those sort of skills to the forefront within this pandemic environment, and also making sure that we do look at the lost jobs, the businesses that are struggling, and making sure those sort of issues are brought up to central government level to make sure that there are policies there to make sure that there is help. And that's why I lean towards the current values of labour, where the wage subsidies, the extension of the wage subsidies, the loans, the interest-free loans, those sort of things were there to help cushion the blow of COVID-19. So just being skills to help, and also advocate on those particular issues of the impact of COVID-19. Cool.
Beautiful. That's great to hear, bro. We'll jump over to Mike here. I did see him step out. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Just bad timing. So it's the uncertainty of COVID. Well, I'm not so sure there is such an uncertainty around COVID anymore. I think we do know that we're going to actually have to live with COVID for quite some time. And I think what we need to start doing is having the conversation with how we actually live with it. So we've got to start thinking about having a proper health response, what our contact tracing is, and how we're going to actually get out of this and recover from the huge economic damage that's happened from the decisions made around the COVID-19 lockdown in the first place. And I think it's quite simple like that, actually. We need to be more focused on where we're going as a nation, how we're going to rebuild. And I think that's about it, I think.
Beautiful, thank you. And we'll jump over to George here.
Well, look, I think that, New Zealand's actually done well to cope with COVID so far. There's been certainly many challenges that we've identified. I mean, I've seen that front line in terms of the 43,000 people our organisation alone has actually gone through and tested. But moving forward, we do actually have to look at sort of supporting and educating people a lot more, because there's still that fear and unknownness of COVID-19 and what effects that would actually continue to have on our families and on the community of Takanini. I think we need to make sure that moving forward that we have some regular engagement with family, because what COVID had done in the first lockdown was really isolate a lot of individuals and their families, and yet what we learned from then to the second time we actually had the increase in levels, we learned that communicating with families and our elderly and our community on a regular basis actually helped us get through this a lot better. And of course, the other thing is making sure that the testing stations were accessible to all communities in all areas, from being, in Takanini itself, or actually being based in Otara, because the communities that were of that look actually went more to their communities to be tested than they drove, say, from across Botany through to MANUKA. The issue, I think, though, is that we've got the jobs that are going to be a problem because COVID has really affected those. We've got, of course, the support that is going to be required. And I think that this is going to be something that the Ministry of Health will have to continue to do until we actually get a vaccine. Well, we've got COVID in our backyard.
Beautiful. That's a great way of putting it there. And so going off that last question of COVID and uncertainty, the real question is, how do you plan on dealing with the effect COVID has had on youth in your electorate? An example that comes to mind is obviously you've maybe heard stories from James Cook and Manarewa High School where students have had to sadly drop out and to support their families because of COVID. How do you plan on dealing with those effects and the effects it has on our youth? Starting with Mike here, sorry.
Yeah, I think, we need to have the conversation about the economic response, right? We need to start thinking about what we can do, not what we can't do. So to get, for example, dropping out of high school, we don't want that at all. The kids need to stay in school. So the parents obviously need the jobs. We can't just keep paying out money to support people. So getting them back to work. So that means, stimulating industry, giving them a chance to get back up and running and actually start asking the question about what we can do. Can a business operate safely? Yes, it can. Well, then it should go for it, go for life. Now, we should also manage our borders better, bringing people in and across. We need, if we need seasonal workers or if we need engineering specialists to actually help build those infrastructure programs that will create the jobs. If we need a tunnel engineer from France, we need to get them in, and then that stimulates other jobs. So the infrastructure build. The other plan we've announced is a mental health and addiction service, because some of the fallout from COVID and parents, losing jobs and their kids falling out of school, there's a lot of stress on families and communities. And one of our policies is actually taking all the money that gets spent on mental health and gets split up across 20 DHBs and putting it all into one centralised mental health agency. Now that controls all the funding, and basically no matter where you live, it won't be a postcode lottery. You'll be able to choose and decide where you want to get treated and with who, and then you have a continuity of support, which is critical. So the ACT Party's about investing in the money where it counts the most, and I think we waste too much of that money through multiple DHBs. And I think because if you actually have a mental health issue and then you need to move for whatever reason, maybe your parents need to go get a job, or, you move yourself, that funding should follow you. It shouldn't be reliant on different DHBs. You move to a different area and therefore you then got to start reapplying again. There's a break in your treatment. It's the last thing we need. So, having that conversation about how we're better at spending the money that's available and how we're going to jumpstart the economy is critical in actually benefiting the youth of Takanini.
Beautiful. We'll jump over to George here.
Look, I've actually seen firsthand the challenges that COVID's actually done to a lot of our families in terms of their attendance at schools. And I suppose what started off well from, as I said, the first lockdown is that the support that went out to a lot of the homes of these parents, whereby the internet was provided, the laptops were provided, that actually helped a lot of people stay, connected with their schools and learning. That didn't actually happen in the second time that we actually went into this challenging process for us. And I think that we need to be flexible to enable young people to be at home with their families, that accessibility of computers and internet is important for them to continue learning and to continue to actually engage in the education system. I don't think we were actually prepared properly the second time round. I mean, me personally, my fear was that I would rather have had my children at home learning and knowing that who they were engaging with was just our little bubble, then to have them go into a school and think, oh, is somebody at their school going to likely get COVID? And so educating people around the safety mechanisms of doing that and keeping your kids at school, or giving people the choice to either keep them at home, give them the resources to be able to learn at home, that's going to actually benefit. Now, I know with regards to universities, one of the challenges that students actually had there was the infrastructure of IT just couldn't cope. And so they found it difficult going there with all these computers and laptops and tablets, not being able to connect. That was a challenge for them. So they ended up not obviously staying at class. And then when there was a lockdown, they just didn't have access anyway. We've just got to work through that. There's got to be a better plan on how we actually manage our young people at school and also at tertiary education levels, and plan it better.
Beautiful, bro, beautiful. And we'll jump over to Nedu here for our last response.
Oh yeah, so I've saw those recent cases, and that's not unusual for what I see in our community. You know, and it's really important that mum and dad have strong, either they're in work or making sure that they're, you know, what was about lifting the minimum wage. So this year we saw it go to $18.90, and next year, you know, if we get elected, we'll see it go to $20 as well, and also the living wage. We're also advocating living wage in the public sector, but hopefully to see that extended to other businesses. But you know, that's a process in itself. But yeah, I really do think that I really do believe that making sure that there is strong jobs out there for the mums and dads, so that way, you know, the youth and the kids are not having to go and pick up work just to make ends meet. Number two is making sure that, you know, I'm always in the sense that in terms of MSD, is just to give them a helping hand while they're trying to find, you know, good work. And one of the policies is that flexi wage subsidy in terms of businesses connecting with those who are on benefits as well, just to make sure that they're leading into that work as well. So yes, I'm on that side where, you know, benefits are there to just to help our struggling families in the first instance, and then get them into good paying jobs. You know, but I just know that this COVID-19 just pretty much revealed the, you know, the vulnerability of families and the structures of jobs. So yeah, really feel for our families that have to get their young ones to go and, you know, and work for mum and dad and the whole family. So yeah, lifting jobs, lifting the pay for our working families. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you guys for that. That's good to hear how you guys plan on responding to the effects there. I'll hand it over to Paris here for our 9th question.
Okay, your next question is, who is your role model, or like who is somebody that inspires you?
Who's
starting here with Mike?
Who is my role model now?
That's up to you, bro. Your role model now, the role model growing up. What inspired you, bro?
Okay, well, growing up, I tell you, had a big impact on me was actually Muhammad Ali. Watching him, you know, beat the world, and being, you know, I suppose I'm giving away my age here, but I was very, very young when it happened, of course. But the inspirational story of his life as well, about what he overcame, and the fact that, you know, he stood up for his principles and his beliefs. I mean, his choice to, you know, I guess challenge the conservative, the conservative nature of the day, and he joined a religion called Islam, which no one seemed to know about back then. And but then if you look at the stories where he went and, you know, intervened and saved a guy from jumping to his death, you know, it was all, you know, God, it was all recorded. It was the character of the man, and you know, and the fact that he stood up to, you know, the what do they call it, the drafting into the military, and he you know, stood up as a conscientious objector, and you know, and someone like that standing up for their principles no matter what the cost, because they know it's right, and being motivated, and being a hard-ass boxer as well, being a pretty tough guy, right, you know, champion of the world, and having a bit and having character with it as well, you know, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, you know, calling George Foreman ugly, you know, just being a cheeky guy, and being prepared to, you know, to back himself. And I think that's critical. And like I was saying before about the, you know, about when I referenced education and engaging with the youth, right? If you can inspire kids with messages like that when they're in school, this is how they become confident, strong, capable young Kiwis. And this is what we try and build, you know, that ethos of self-responsibility and, you know, and competency and the idea of a meritocracy and you know, trying to improve yourself. And yeah, I think Muhammad Ali's one of the role models. I could carry on if you like, but I think I've only got a couple of minutes to talk.
Beautiful, bro. That's great. That's great. We'll jump over to George here.
Oh, well, look, I can think of three at the moment. The first one would probably be Apira Ngata, and obviously he was, the closest he ever got to Prime Minister was Deputy Prime Minister, but the fact that he was able to manipulate his view into a predominantly non-Māori audience, which was, you know, there was about 60 MPs in full Māori, 60 non-Māori MPs in full Māori. He was able to actually educate a lot of the non-Māori members of Parliament around how to work with Māori and the things that he actually introduced into this country that we sort of look at benefiting today. That's education is one of them, and he certainly encouraged a lot of Māori to look at being educated and getting a good education, so that would actually help your whānau, help your hapu, help your iwi. Probably from a world role model, Martin Luther King is someone that I certainly respect, and I had the privilege a few years ago to go to his I Have a Dream 50th anniversary speech in Washington, and just to see what he actually did in America and to meet his family and listen to the stories that they had, and they spoke to us about what he did and the sacrifices that he actually made for his family, and not only that, but his people, was just amazing. And I think people that make that stand, that hold their hand up and are bold about what they believe in and advocate on behalf of what they believe in and the people that they do it for, is just amazing. I mean, I certainly looked up to both of those people as being good role models for people like me.
Beautiful. That's great. That's great. And we'll jump over to Neru here for the last one, eh?
So I think number one would be my father. I think he represents a lot of the Pacific migrants that came in the early 70s, 80s, looking for a better life for their families. So my dad was a security guard, got sick with lung issues, but still went out and did the work. So that way, you know, our young family and us kids can go get a better education. We're staying in Mangere. They sent us off to Auckland Grammar and to Epsom Girls for my sister. So it was really the sense of those Pacific migrants that came across, trying to, you know, get a better life for the families. I guess number two would be those who struggled back in the islands. I guess in Samoa, we were fighting for independence. So my great grandfather, Tamasese Luffy, really fought for, I guess, independence for the country of Samoa, and along other good leaders there. So he really taught me to stand your ground, and it's always about peace, a peaceful protest as well. Always, I guess, that lineage of activism and making sure your voice is heard, but in a peaceful way. And so those are the two things: my father, who represents Pacific migrants, and my great-great-grandfather. Cool.
Beautiful. That's great to hear. We have our 10th and last question here, and this one's honestly just a fun one, just to kind of wrap us up for the night. I'm sure the people watching this will very much judge you on what you decide to say in this segment, so just be careful there.
Very much so.
And so the question for you guys today is, what's your favorite place to eat in Takanini? And we'll start with Mike here.
Oh, mate, I must confess I have a real soft spot for KFC's hot and spicy. So there's that one. But to actually eat as well, not technically in Takanini, it's literally on the wrong side of the road, is a Yellow Chili. It's a great Indian restaurant just up the road here in Flatbush. So that would be my best place to eat, I think, my favourite. I can't deny it. I'm a hot and spicy fan, KFC.
Lovely. I'm sure a couple of people will go there now. They'll be like, oh, I saw Mike. He told us to come here.
That's right, mate. Tell them I sent you and they'll give you a discount. Nah.
Oh, look at that. I'll email you if you don't get that discount. We'll jump over to George here.
Well, look, we had our campaign launch at the Songbird Cafe, which sits in the heart of Takanini, and that's a new cafe. I mean, it's been open for about a year or so now, and Amit and his team, they really cook a good breakfast there. So if you want to really get a good breakfast, that's the place to go. And they actually have some really nice pancakes with cream cheese and salmon on it, which are really, really nice. But the only thing with that is that you've got to have about 5 or 6 before you've had enough, and he makes them so nice. I think the addiction is actually in the cream cheese, but I tell you, Songbird, Amit and the team, they make a good kai for breakfast, and they also make some good hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that as well.
I hope you guys know I'm writing this down. I'll be judging all of these places. They'll be in my report. We'll jump over to Neru here. Or what's your favorite place to eat, bro?
So I think on the campaign trail, after door knocks or whatever, we'll just go down to off Walters Road, Blacksmith Bar and Restaurant, and they've got massive ass screens where you can watch your sports. But I've been trying the different stuff on their menu, so the chicken burger, the beef burgers. So it's been really nice, just going through their list, but also trying the different eateries around the place. But Blacksmith, it's really nice.
You'll be there tonight at Neru.
Yeah, no.
Oh, bro, I've heard about the Blacksmith. I've heard great things, so I'll take your word for it there, bro. I'll jump back over to Paris here to wrap us up for the evening yet.
Okay, sweet. So that wraps up our questions for our candidates. We just want to thank our 3 candidates, George, Neru, and Mike, for coming today, especially on such short notice. We wish you well in your campaigns, and we just wanted to let everyone know to keep an eye out on our social media pages for upcoming information about general elections and referendums that we're putting out. And our social media pages are Manukau Youth Council on Instagram and Rewa Youth Council on Facebook. So yeah, that's it from us, Manukau Youth Council. Peace.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Great civil debate. A lot of fun. No.
Thank you so much for coming, guys.
It's been great discussion, wasn't it? But yeah.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Of course, bro. I'll make sure I email you guys all back being like, bro, your food place, I don't know, it wasn't it for me. But yeah, well, thank you guys all for coming here tonight, especially on a short notice.